All right, guys, a couple more videos. We're going to continue to work with slope in these next two videos, not only talking about the line types with regards to the slopes, but slopes of parallel and perpendicular lines. So very similar to some stuff we did in the first two videos. So notice again, in all four of these, it wants us to find the slope of the line going through those points and identify the line type. Okay, so remember line types, okay? So the very first kind is an increasing line. Okay, and remember, we know it's an increasing line when it has a positive slope, our little m. Okay, the second kind is a decreasing line. And remember, a decreasing line happens when we have a negative slope, so a negative m. Okay, the third kind is a horizontal line. Okay, and that happens anytime our slope is 0. So if the slope is 0, it has to be a horizontal line. And the last kind, okay, is a vertical line. Okay, and that happens anytime your slope is undefined. Okay, so it does not exist. Okay, which means it's undefined. Okay, so we have this in the notes from yesterday. So if you have that printed off or you have access to it, just go back and pull that up. Okay, so let's see. We want to start here. Okay, in number 1. Okay, so the first thing I got to do is calculate the slope. Okay, so remember your slope, delta y over delta x. Okay, so I'm going to go the first point minus the second point. So delta y would be 9 minus a negative 5. So 9 minus negative 5. Delta x would be negative 7 minus a negative 7. Negative 7 minus a negative 7. So that's going to give me 14 over 0. Anytime 0 is in the denominator of fraction, that's an undefined number. Okay, so this is DNE or undefined. Okay, remember DNE means does not exist. Okay, so the line type here, okay, the type, okay, you just go back up here. What happens? Well, that has to be a vertical line because the slope is DNE or undefined. So the line type would be vertical. Okay? All right, so we go down to the second one. Okay, again, I got to find the slope first. So delta y over delta x. Okay, and I'm going to go the first point minus the second point. So delta y would be negative 6 minus 8. Negative 6 minus 8. And delta x would be negative 4 minus 0. Negative 4 minus 0. So I'm going to get a negative 14 over a negative 4. Now remember, you have to reduce things. So notice a negative divided by a negative is a positive, so they cancel each other off. And if you take the 14 and the 4 and divide them both by 2, you get 7 halves. Okay, so my slope here, okay, is 7 halves. Okay, so we look at our line type. Okay, what type of line do I have? Well, it's a positive slope, so that it's be an increasing line. Okay, this is an increasing line. Okay, all right, so we go down to this third one. Okay, so let's see, my slope, once again, delta y over delta x. Okay, so I'm gonna go these coordinates minus those coordinates. So delta y would be 0 minus a negative 3. 0 minus a negative 3. So I have to go negative 5 minus 9, okay, for my delta x. Negative 5 minus 9. Okay, so that gives me a positive 3, okay, over a negative 14. And remember, we don't like to have negatives in the denominator, so move it out front or up above. Doesn't make any difference. So I'm going to write it as -3/14. Okay, so there's my slope. Just like up here, there's my slope. Just like up here, there's my slope. Okay, now, that's a reduced fraction. Okay, so I can't do anything else with it. Okay, so if I look at my line type, okay, well, what happens when we have a negative slope? That means I have a decreasing line. So my type would be decreasing. It's a decreasing line. Okay? All right, so let's see, down to the bottom one. Okay, number 4. Okay, so let's see, my slope, delta y over delta x. Okay, and I'm going to go these coordinates minus those coordinates. So delta y would be 12 minus 12. And delta x would be 0 minus a -1. I don't need a parenthesis there. Okay. 0 minus -1. So notice I'm going to get 0 over 1. And when 0 is in the numerator of a fraction, it's equal to 0. So my slope here is 0. Okay, so what's my line type? Well, what happens right here? Okay, when the slope is 0, it's a horizontal line. Okay, so this type right here, my line type, it has to be a horizontal line. Okay, so just like the guys we did yesterday. Okay, remember, this is not your slope. Going back, you wouldn't leave your answer like this. What's the slope? You don't say 14 over 0. It's DNE or undefined. Same thing here. This would not be your slope because it's not a reduced fraction. Okay, when you reduce it, you get 7/2, so 7/2 is your slope. Right here, this is not your slope because we wouldn't leave the -14 in the denominator. Got to get it out of the denominator, so put it out front or up above. So this is your slope. Same thing here. This would not be your slope because this is not a reduced fraction. When 0 is in the numerator, the whole fraction is equal to 0. Now it's reduced. This is your slope. And then these are your line types: vertical, increasing, decreasing, horizontal.